We're arguing to take books from the shelves, to remove the freedom inherent in reading whatever you want to read. Because it visited, as Charles Osgood and I did once, a school called the Farron School at 50th and State Street in the heart of the Robert Taylor homes. We were taken by a woman in a room named Carla Kelly, the only white teacher at the school, with flaming, beautiful red hair, who sat there every day just before these kids went home and read to them. They all spread across carpeting. And when the kids left, she just did, and they lined up and she hugged them and she said, "Be safe." And we spent 2 weeks at that school getting to know these kids, getting to know the families that lived in the horrifying high-rises called Robert Taylor homes. Second graders are innocent. 7-year-olds are innocent. At the end of this experience, they were all asked to draw something for Charlie and me, something that we could have as a souvenir, having spent all that time there. Carla asked them to draw something they wanted to do or be when they grew up. One little boy drew a ship, and you know how beautifully crude drawings are from 7-year-olds. They're beyond beautiful. There is no draw inside the lines. And this little boy drew a big ship, and we said, "What's that?" He goes, "I want to have a big yacht." And another little boy drew a little stick figure on a round thing, and I said, "What is that?" He goes, "I want to be one of those astronaut people." And one really inventive kid was standing in what looked like a big pile of green leaves. And we said, "What is this? Is this you playing in leaves?" He said, "No, that's me in a big pile of money that I will make." Then we passed one girl who had drawn a tree. And we looked at it and said, "What is this, honey? Is this some kind of magic tree? Is this a magic tree of some kind?" No, it's just a tree. We talked to some other kids and we gathered up these drawings, which I still have. And as we're walking down the hall and through the metal detector that exists in this grammar school in the city of Chicago, I said to Charlie, I said, "What do you think that Tasha's thing was with the tree? What do you think that's about?" At that moment, we walked outside at 50th and State, and we looked around, and we did not see a tree. And these two relatively jaded newspaper guys began to cry, thinking that this little girl's entire life was walking from these apartments in Robert Taylor homes where you can't have bed frames because you got to put the mattresses on the floor in case there are any stray bullets, down the urine-smelling elevators to the ground floor, across a barren field filled with condoms and crack vials, and into this little safe harbor of school. So I recommend, and I know there are none of you here, but that these people, these self-righteous, prudish, small-minded people who attempt to get books taken away from people's lives, use their energies in a more constructive way. Take a kid to see a tree. In rereading this fabulous book that was published the year I was born, the one portion that came back to me with a great deal of impact, because I literally saw myself in young Holden's place. For those of you who haven't read the book, do yourself a favor and read it again. This is basically for the guys in the crowd. I went to my room and put some water on my hair, but you can't really comb a crew cut or anything. Then I tested to see if my breath stank from so many cigarettes and the scotch and sodas I drank at Ernie's. all you do is hold your hand under your mouth and blow your breath up toward your old nostrils. It didn't seem to stink much, but I brushed my teeth anyway. Then I put on another clean shirt. I knew I didn't have to get all dolled up for a prostitute or anything, but it sort of gave me something to do. I was a little nervous. I was starting to feel pretty sexy and all, but I was a little nervous anyway. If you want to know the truth, I'm a virgin. I really am. I've had quite a few opportunities to lose my virginity and all. And then the genius of Salinger's writing, lose my virginity and all. Trying to remember what that was like, but a lot came with that. I've had quite a few opportunities to lose my virginity and all, but I've never gotten around to it yet. Something always happens. For instance, if you're at a girl's house, her parents always come home at the wrong time, or you're afraid they will. Or if you're in the back seat of somebody's car, there's always somebody's date in the front seat, some girl, I mean, that always wants to know what's going on all over the car. I mean, some girl in front keeps turning around to see what the hell's going on. Anyway, something always happens. I came quite close to doing it a couple of times, though. One time in particular, I remember. Something went wrong, though. I don't even remember what anymore. The thing is, most of the time when you're coming pretty close to doing it with a girl that isn't a prostitute or anything, I mean, she keeps telling you to stop. The trouble with me is, I stop. Most guys don't. I can't help it. You never know whether they really want you to stop or whether they're just scared as hell too, or whether they're just telling you to stop so that if you do go through with it, the blame will be on you and not them. Anyway, I keep stopping. The trouble is, I get to feeling sorry for them. I mean, most girls are so dumb and old. After you neck them for a while, you can really watch them losing their brains. You take a girl when she really gets passionate. You can imagine the appeal the suction had to the 14-year-old Rick Kogan. After never having done any of this, after you neck them for a while, you can really watch them losing their brains. You take a girl when she really gets passionate, she just hasn't any brains. I don't know. They tell me to stop, so I stop. I always wish I hadn't after I take them home, but I keep doing it anyway. Anyway, while I was putting on another clean shirt, I sort of figured this was my big chance in a way. I figured if she was a prostitute and all, I could get in some practice on her in case I get married or anything. This kind of sex doesn't help with marriage, trust me on this. I worry about that stuff some. I read this book once that had this very sophisticated, suave guy in it. Monsieur Blanchard was his name. I can still remember. It was a lousy book, but this Blanchard guy was pretty good. He had this big chateau and all on the Riviera in Europe, and all he did in his spare time was beat women off with a club. He was a real rake and all, but he knocked women out. He said in this one part that a woman's body is like a violin and all, and that it takes a terrific musician to play it right. It was a very corny book, I realized that, but I couldn't get that violin stuff out of my mind anyway. In a way, that's why I sort of wanted to get some practice in case I ever got married. Caulfield and his magic violin. Boy, it's corny, I realize, but it isn't too corny. I wouldn't mind being pretty good at that stuff. Half the time, if you really want to know the truth, when I'm horsing around with a girl, I have a hell of a lot of trouble just finding what I'm looking for God's sake, if you know what I mean. Take this girl that I just miss having sexual intercourse with, that I told you about. It took me about an hour to just get her goddamn brassiere off. By the time I did get it off, she was about ready to spit in my eye. Anyway, I kept walking around the room waiting for this prostitute to show up. I kept hoping she'd be good looking. I didn't care too much, though. I sort of just wanted to get it over with. Finally, somebody knocked on the door, and when I went to open it, I had my suitcase right in the way, and I fell over it and damn near broke my knee. I always pick a gorgeous time to fall over a suitcase or something. When I opened the door, this prostitute was standing there. She had a polo coat on and no hat. She was sort of a blonde, but you could tell she dyed her hair. She wasn't any old bag, though. "How do you do?" I said. "Suave as hell, boy." Thank you.